Hi, Mr. Scott.
Janet, how are you?
I'm great. Now that I remember to turn the volume on, I'm good. We're out running errands.
Yeah, I know how that goes.
Everybody's
Carl.
coming to live with us for the month of December.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So there'll be 9 of us here.
Oh, my.
3 under 2.
Oh, my.
I don't know if that means we're outnumbered or what, but it will be
I
fun.
think you're going to feel that way frequently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. It's always exciting here when the 9 and the 11-year-old come, and they
Oh,
pretty much
gosh.
take care of themselves.
Well, and that's just such a fun age. Oh my gosh, that's a
Well,
fun
of
age.
course, they also bring the dog, so they're always.
Yes, and
Sometimes
we
they
will
bring
have a
both
dog as
dogs.
well.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Hi, Carl.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Just
good.
fine. Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy.
Hi guys.
We're so good at silence. I was studying the spreadsheets.
I don't believe Brad's going to join us today, but everybody else did not say they were coming.
All right. Well, they have probably about 30 seconds to show up.
That was interesting information, Jeremy, that you sent us from the golf courses in Milwaukee.
Right? Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
crazy.
yeah, I don't think people understand, and it's a good thing, right? You know, but I don't think people understand how busy we are.
Yeah, I know, but it just makes me nervous that somebody's going to come and dangle gold coins in front of you.
I don't know. I mean, yeah. I like Madison.
Well, I hope you like it a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I just thought that was really powerful to
babysitters
just see
here.
that. What's that?
Said you got babysitters here.
Yeah, that's right. I do, Janet. That's yeah, that's a big
Did your
deal.
parents tell you that they ran into us in the airport?
In the airport?
On their way to Tucson. We were on our way to California and we flew to Phoenix with them, and your father does not take compliments about you any better than you take compliments about you.
Yeah, I get awkward.
Yeah. I say them anyway, so.
Yeah, no.
Your mom
yeah,
loves to hear it, so that's why I just kept going. It was good for your mom.
I think they did mention that. I just, now that you said that, I'm like, oh, you know what? I think they did say that they ran into.
That was very fun.
Yeah.
We
Did you
have
have a good
friends
time in
who,
California?
We were out in California. Yeah, came back.
we have
My
friends who
crew's
live
moving
just
to
out.
Colorado, so.
We have friends who live just outside Tucson, Oro Valley.
Yeah.
They've been there for a number of years. They're leaving, going to Santa Fe.
Santa Fe. Yeah.
They're tired of the heat and the smoke. Hello, Mark. Dennis.
I can't get out of. Can you hear me?
Just
Yeah.
fine.
I'm on something Apple Music and I can't get out of it. I don't even know where it came from. Maybe I should get out and start over.
So go hit Command Tab.
Yeah, but Dennis, I can't hear any music, so I think you're fine.
Yeah.
Well, I can't. It's blocking my whole screen here.
Oh.
I can't close it out.
None of us are that good looking, so it's okay.
Dennis,
No.
upper left-hand corner.
Okay. Okay. Here we go. I got 6, including me. Is that right?
That's where we're at.
Okay.
That's enough. Let's get started.
Should be 7, but that's okay.
I'm sorry.
No, nothing.
Okay. Well, that didn't work. You're all gone now.
So I'm
Good
not,
work, Tom.
I'm not the only one.
I'm also having some problems here. I had to go to a different computer. So
When can we just go back and meet in the city hall?
No. This is great. All right, we ready to rock?
We are ready to rock. I see
I'm-
no one here from the public.
No, are we calling the meeting to order? Let's see, 6:03.
We are,
Okay.
public comment section is closed. I'd like to hear a motion for approval of the minutes from October 18th.
So moved.
I
I'd like to
read,
hear a second.
I second that. I read them.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Moving on. Golf operations financial update.
I mean, you guys saw the financials. Any questions on the financials?
Well, you made money.
No?
A lot of money.
Biggest year ever? Is that right, or am I missing something?
Yeah, that's correct.
Wow.
Yep, biggest year ever.
They look great, Jeremy. Congratulations.
Congratulations, huge.
Yep. Great
Thank you.
year.
Yeah, it was a good year. And frankly, we're still going. I mean, November's pretty limited, right? I mean, it's nothing, but it's going to add a little bit.
That's gravy.
But we're honing in the expenses. We had a couple other things, like food stuff that would have been in October that will hit in November. But for the most part, I mean, as you can see, it was a successful 2021. From a golf operating standpoint, I mean, we did spray snow mold to get prepared for the winter. We're top dressing this next week just to kind of do a final top dress for the winter. We're open tomorrow and Wednesday. We're going to look into the extended forecast. We kind of play it day by day right now.
Did you have any players today?
No, we didn't. We don't open when it's below a specific temperature. We look at the temperature and say, okay, is it above 40? Yes or no? And then we look at the wind and go, is it below 10 miles an hour? Yes or no? And we kind of make a decision on that.
So your capital spending, the 200 grand, what's the other 80 that didn't get spent?
Yeah, so fairway mower, we just got delivered. We're still working on the fairway mowers. It obviously was delayed due to COVID, so I have not submitted that one, but it will be submitted in 2021. And then the pond liner is not in there just yet. So yep. But we will be just shy. We'll be at 298 mark by my calculations.
Okay.
Good year, Jeremy.
So that puts you at about $1.7 million, give or
Yeah.
take, after they put depreciate. No, probably going to be around $1.6 million.
Hold on, Mark. Give me a second. Pal, I don't know what that spells. It spells shed. I don't know. Yeah, that's my calculation-ish.
So
Mark.
$1.5 million
Yep.
somewhere after depreciation.
Yep.
And what do we owe the general fund?
Well, should we wait till item number 4?
I don't have
Or
a
do you wanna
problem
jump
moving
right into
forward,
that?
addressing it right away.
Okay, any other questions on golf operation and financial update on,
Nope.
I have an operations question, which remind me near the end of the meeting, I'll ask then.
well, go ahead.
How do you seal the edges on the liner?
Yeah, so it's a trench that we dig, and then we essentially put the liner in the trench, and then we cover it with dirt.
But you bought a liner large enough to cover the entire base of that pond?
You got it.
Wow.
They make that one piece of plastic, huh?
Yep.
Wow.
Wow.
My hands, we were out there today, my hands are still raw from moving it.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, thank you for the answer.
Yep.
Let's talk about pilot.
Well, not necessarily. Well, so I think there's two things that we got to think about, right? So the reason why I have this on there is last meeting, you know, I had a proposal that we would advance the payments to the general fund, right? I think what I'm looking for is approval from this governing body or this recommending committee to approve that we do that to the finance committee. You know, the plan, if projected, Bill and I kind of talked about 1.25 million as opposed to the 400. Okay, and then that would put our balance to the general fund at 299,411 mark.
After
So
the payment.
the remaining balance would be paid next year, and we would start TID payments next year.
So part of this calculation, and this is just, I was wondering if you had this discussion with Bill, right? The discussion previously was that we would, with the results of operations, the 1.5 million that you have for this year, and the accumulated surplus, my recollection was that that would be sufficient enough to pay off the 1.8 million for lack of
Yep.
1,850,000 this year, but that would cause us to show a loss. Did Bill weigh in on whether we should show a loss or not?
We've got 1.549 roughly remaining in the general fund. So Mark, I would be
No, you got 1.549 plus 300 grand.
What do you mean plus the 300 grand?
Well, you're going to pay off 300 grand next year.
Yeah, nope. That's the remaining balance right now,
Oh, sorry.
1.5.
1.5 in total.
Mhm.
Okay.
So
So the discussion
Mark,
then was.
but hold on. This number was a projected number that he and I came up with like early October. You know, this number is fluid. I would be open to the idea of balancing out this year and getting rid of. My thought is I want to get rid of 2027 if at all possible. Right. So if you look at that sheet right now, we've got a payment of just under $300,000 projected in 2027. My internal goal is to sit there and say we are essentially debt free by the end of 2026. That's what my internal goal is. Now, if we can make that happen, I believe we can. And Bill just took a conservative approach, which is why we left it as is in 2027. But knowing what I know after October's numbers, and we're already over 100 grand than what I projected with Bill, I think we can bump 2021 up. So I think what I'm looking out of you all is, Mark, I can ask that question if he's good with taking an on paper loss, or if we just get it to level this year. Break even. On paper break even.
That's what I'm getting at, right? You should have enough in your surplus plus the results from this year to pay off that 1.6 million. Say it's 1.6 million.
We have more than enough in the surplus. That's correct.
So that was the question, right? Is if you did that, would it be bad for the rating agencies to show a loss?
This is what Bill recommended. This is what he believed was the correct thing to do. Now, I didn't ask that specific question.
There's no impact on you if you split it over 2 years, right? It's just you want to get rid of it as quick as you can.
Ideally, I would like
Mark's concern is you get.
I would like 2027 gone.
Yeah, I understand that.
And I believe we can make that happen.
But if you made a 1.2 payment in December and
Yeah, I'm
a
a little-
0.3,
I think your headers are a little bit misleading, right? What you're really saying is that so the balance at the end of 2020 was $1.6 million. Is that right?
End of 2020
Yeah.
for the general fund,
Yeah.
1.549.
Yeah. Okay. So you're basically going to pay. Okay. So you're going to pay. The assumption was that you're going to pay 1.236. Is that what it was?
1.25.
Where is that on this? Or is it
So
just
the 21 projected under the, so there's two tabs. There's the original tab and then the scenario tab.
this is why I wish you could just pull these up and show everybody.
I mean, I'm happy to do it.
This, oh, I see it up there. Okay. Okay. I see it now. So if you pay the $1.25 million, what does that leave you with the for the year? What kind of gain?
Well, I don't know that exact answer just yet because we still have expenses. We still have revenue coming in.
Here's what I think we need to do. I have no problem paying this thing off this year, but it really depends on what throwing a loss for the golf operation does to the credit rating agencies when they try to underwrite us. Right. And that's the issue. And I guess so there's two sides to that, right? It's going to show a loss, but then it's going to show the repayment of the advance. The question is, which is more powerful? So just for the benefit of everybody else, when we do our borrowing every April or May for the capital programs, the rating agencies look at all this stuff. And we've been on this thing on their horizon, right? We've been in their sights forever. And it's basically a ding against the credit rating of the city that these advances exist. Because the credit agencies understand that at the end of the day, the city's going to have to backstop any losses from the golf course. So they've been very pleased that there's a repayment plan. They've been very pleased that the golf course shows operating gains. What I'm concerned about is that if we pay this off, but then throw off a loss, that they're not going to see the good for the bad. So it might be better to show $100,000 gain for the year from operations and carry some of this into next year than to pay it all off in 21 and show a loss. And that's the kind of sense I need to get from Bill.
So
does that
off
make
of
sense?
the projection, right now, as of, we'll call it mid-November, we've got just over $3.7 million in revenue. On this sheet, we were projecting 3.6. So, right now, if we went on this plan, it's $100,000 shy than what I believe we're going to now be at, right? And then we are going to, what was that negative there? Actually, that would cover our, okay, I see what he's doing. So that would cover our that negative 90. So we would stay at that roughly at that 1.2 million in the reserve fund.
So the issue as I hear it is, are you going to pay it this year or split payments?
Yes.
So why can't this committee provide approval for either option as determined between Bill and the Finance Committee?
Love it. I think it's a great idea. I think all I'm looking from this committee is that you support an advance payment.
In excess
Well, I
of,
think you got that at the last meeting. We were going to
Well,
talk
so-
to Ken.
Yeah, but we didn't approve it, Tom.
I think what he's looking for is an advance payment, repayment in excess of the 400 grand a year that we've committed to.
That's correct, because right now we're at 1.2 in the reserve fund. We were scheduled to be at like 400. And by my calculations, we would add another,
Million
another
five.
million something on this, right? So
So you're going to be at 2.7. You're going to take away 1.5, but I think the problem that you might have, we just need to make sure that Bill needs to tell us what's going to look better for the rating agencies. That's all.
which I think that can be hashed out in finance, don't you, Mark?
Yeah,
So
that's fine.
so that's what I'm looking for out of this committee, is just support.
So you want a motion to that effect, I assume? But it has
I'll
to
leave
be
that up to you guys.
open-ended enough to let you and the committees determine the amount. So the committee would be on record of supporting a cash repayment or repayment in amounts adequate to both satisfy the city's needs or expectations and the rating agency's expectations. And I don't care what the number is.
So what the way you would say that is the timing to be best determined by the city finance.
Perfect.
Second.
Okay, who moved?
I guess I did.
I guess Tom did, yeah.
I don't usually do that, but
Okay, give me the motion.
go ahead, Mark, give him a motion.
The committee moves to pay off the advances from the city's general fund in total, with timing to be best determined by the city's director of finance.
Boy, I did that well.
I've always
Good
known
job,
that.
Tom.
Okay, all in favor?
Hold
Aye.
on,
Aye.
hold on,
Opposed?
hold on.
Is Carl gone?
No, I'm still here. I'm just having a hard time getting the video and everything and not shutting down for some
He's
reason.
lurking.
Nope. There
I'm
he is.
still here.
All right,
Just
so
trying to
here's what I
save
got.
bandwidth.
Y'all ready?
Yep.
Okay, here's the motion. Pay off the advances of the city's general fund in total on a timeline that's best determined by the city's finance director.
Correct.
It is
Okay.
determined, the city's finance director.
I'm sorry,
No.
Tom?
No best is determined by.
Pay off the advance of the city's general fund in total on a timeline that's best determined. That
No,
is
just
determined. That
Yeah.
is determined.
Yeah.
By the city's finance director. Got it.
Yep.
Okay,
All right, you have your support. Passed
Was that-
unanimously.
5-0, was that unanimous?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Yep. Fantastic.
Okay, so
now
wait a
that we have
minute.
that part,
Wait a minute. So everybody take their hand, give themselves a pat on the back. This is a
I can't do
momentous
that.
occasion here.
Can't do
It
that.
is. It is. We've been working toward this for a long time.
Jeremy,
Right.
take two hands.
Yeah,
I think it's
Okay.
really cool. You know, like we
Yeah.
were projecting a 2020 or 2030
Right.
timeline, and we're looking at a solid 4 years in advance as of right now, which I think is really neat.
Jeremy,
That's
there's no
awesome.
question you made this possible, but Mark, I want to thank you too for helping
Absolutely.
guide us to this point. I mean, you have been incredibly supportive of what we've been trying to do for the golf course from your side, and I don't want that overlooked.
yeah.
In
Could-
sickness and in hurt. You come to the
I-
meeting.
I really couldn't agree more with what Tom just said. Yeah, I appreciate the support, the trust that the golf committee has, that finance has, and that common council has. I mean, it's enabled us to do some things that I think are pretty neat. So
Great.
that said,
And they still can't grow grass at Glenway.
so pilot.
Well, we're not going to help them, Mark.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Pilot this is just so Bill, Jessica and I spoke about this, and this isn't, something that we're looking to put in place tomorrow. I suppose it's up to the council when they want to put this in place, but these are just some options that Jessica came up with that other entities within our own city government does, and then in different villages around the area. So obviously I personally believe that 1.4 million is a little excessive. I think that if it's around that 400 or 500 mark, and the city does get, if we have a good year, they should get more, right? But I wanted you all to take a look at that. And just
So
start
that million,
thinking.
but that 1.4 million includes a payment to TID 3.
It does.
Yeah, so you need to be careful with that. So let's look at it this way. I just think it's funny how this stuff, this was a discussion Bill and I had back in September, and it's finally making its way here. So everyone needs to understand that this is an investment that the city made, and this pilot is basically a dividend to the city for the investment, right? If it was owned by stockholders, you'd be paying dividends. If it was owned by a different company, right, there's got to be a method to extract profits from the golf course. So part of the discussion needs to be is, how do we structure this so that we start paying the city a return on its investment, right? Not just the advances, because quite honestly, there's no interest on these advances. So, right. So basically the city has been subsidizing the golf course in terms of interest payments for however long they've been going on. In any case, I think we need to get our heads away from the fact that they're stealing money. Not that anybody's brought that up, but in just case it does, this is a return on the city's investment on the golf course.
Who's stealing money? Like, what do you mean?
I'm just
It's going to be asked. Somebody's going to say it. Mark, I think we understand what this is.
yeah.
I will point out I've made some fairly long-term investments with no return.
Yeah.
I didn't like those very much either.
So
Haven't we all?
Yes, indeed.
I've been thinking about this in terms of structure. And so there's a couple different methods, and maybe you can help explain option one a little bit better, why that's not the same as a gross receipts tax. But I think from a golf course perspective, we would never, ever want to do number 3. And the reason for that is that we cannot get a guaranteed return on the golf course assets. It's all dependent upon operations. right? So the way that number 3 works is what they're trying to do is make it look like the water utility, but the water utility has a right to charge that expense to its ratepayers, and they have no choice but to pay it. Golf course really can't do that, right? You can't, theoretically, you can't build that into the price of a round of golf because somebody will go somewhere else. You have to stay competitive on the top line. So I think it's probably, whichever way we do it, it's probably more beneficial to the golf course if it's a variable expense, right? Such as the gross receipts tax. So I just throw that out there for discussion.
So you're saying option 1.
No, I'm
Okay.
trying to understand the difference between 1 and 2, and maybe,
Yeah, I didn't quite get that either.
right? What's the difference between the 2? Or are they just saying that that's what other golf courses get charged?
Hang on.
I don't know.
But I mean, if you look at it, right, I think what we're saying is that even that structure, right, that 14.5% is basically right around that debt payment. So like option B, 1B,
Yeah.
is probably in the ballpark of what we've been paying anyway. The question is whether it should really be option 2. And then the second question is, when does this start? Do we want to say, you know what, if the other part of this equation is that the city needs money now. So it may be that we say, hey, you know what, you can charge us 3% of gross revenue starting in 22, with some kind of caveat that says, at the end of the day, we would need to make these payments first before we paid a gross receipts payment. In other words, make it contingent upon the fact that make it contingent on making money that year.
I think what you're really saying is making enough money to not only pay the tax, but to also cover the TID payment.
Correct.
No, I
So-
think what we need to say is we need to pay the debt payment, right? Which we're bumping up to 450. And then I still want to fund the general fund, the 100K for us and the 300K.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
So add those up and it's 1.2. You got 400 to repay, 450. You're looking at a $400,000 tax.
450 for the
wanna-
new, 400 next year.
Mhm.
Okay, which frankly, I don't see why we wouldn't have another good year. But 2023, 400. 2023 makes me nervous, right? 450 going forward, except for 2027.
So you've got 450, 435, and you want 400 for the course.
Well, but then the other option of this is since 2023 does make me nervous, right? Due to Pleasantview Road. Why wouldn't we just keep having this conversation each year and then pay down the debt and get pilot sooner? Is it because they need the pilot like next year, Mark? Is that
Yep.
what I'm hearing?
Yep.
Got it. So I'm not privy to that information. I don't really, I know that there was some tight line items that you all were discussing in budget. It's the city's golf course, and I guess I don't have an opinion.
So I will just tell you that if the golf committee did that, I would think they would be looked on as saviors to help the city's finances. So I'm talking about that 3% gross tax
Right, yeah.
on line 60,
Gross tax or
the gross receipts
net-
tax.
Yeah, but gross or, okay.
Well, that's the amount that would be payable.
Yeah, but it popped in my mind, what if it's gross less capital and debt?
No, I think what we would have to do is write into the agreement that says we would
So we're looking at okay, I know what you're getting at.
we would continue the way that the structure is today, where we would pay, what are we paying to the city for? Let's take the standard year. It was 4 to the city, 4 to the golf course. Anything that's left over stays with the golf course, right? 4 in the golf course is 3 plus 1, right? 300 on capital, 100 to the reserve fund. I think we can stay with that, but then after that's done, if there are sufficient funds, then we would pay the gross receipts tax on top of that.
So for example, this year, if we're at a $3.7 million operation, the gross receipts tax would be 118,000. Is that what I'm hearing?
Whatever the math is.
Well, so 3.19%.
On what?
3.7, so it'd be $118,030.
Okay. But that's
Well, it's interesting.
payable only if we have positive cash flow after those other items,
Correct.
until such time as the TIF debt is paid off.
Yeah, correct.
So let me tell you what I'm hearing. That we can expect that the course will be forever responsible for a minimum of $400,000, which is the current TID payment, plus a 3.19% gross receipts tax in years it can cover it.
I think you're conflating the two.
Well, I don't think
I think
anybody's going to give up
the 400 that the city is getting now for TIF repayments,
Yeah.
would go away in 26.
Only on
Right.
paper is my guess. And I'm not
Well,
opposed to that. I just
What
want,
would happen is that the city would redo the gross receipts tax.
well, they're certainly not going to redo the gross, so they're going to change the percentage.
Right, correct.
Yeah.
And I think what you do is you just say, okay, you know what, the golf course is going to contribute 400 grand forever.
That's my point.
Yes.
Plus 3.19.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Tom, the 400 is only to the internal debt.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
No, I'm well aware of this.
That's going
I
away.
said this at the last meeting. Whatever we do here is going to establish an expectation, which once the expectation turns into money, isn't going to change. I'm not arguing that's bad. I'm saying, committee, get accustomed to the fact that we're going to be paying at least the floor, which is 400, and in all likelihood, some fraction of gross receipts above that. And
No.
frankly, I don't think $500,000 or $600,000 a year to the city is that bad a deal.
No, Tom, they're not going to do 400. They're going to do this. The options are 1, 2, or 3. Now, option 1 does move that mark up to like that $500-some thousand mark. And then depending on if it's A, B, or C, it could be $1 million, right?
I think Tom has a point that if we're paying 4 plus the gross receipts tax, then the city at some point is going to say, hey, why do I want to settle for 4 when you've been paying 5? And I
Exactly.
understand that. I think what it says is that, you know, what we have to get across is that I think Tom's probably right. You know, if the golf course can give $500,000 a year comfortably, then that's probably something that has value to both the golf course and the city.
Yep.
But I think we need to structure it in the short run with that structure, right? We continue as we are, and the gross receipts tax of 3 until the TIF debt is paid off.
I think that's the best way to go.
And
We can
then,
renegotiate later,
right,
but not now. And yes, 23 is going to be a bear.
which is why we don't want to give up more than that. Which is why we don't want to give up any more of that reserve. Right. I think if we go back to for this year, even if we pay off the general fund, that still leaves a reserve fund about $1 million. Is that right, Jeremy?
Correct. Yep.
You don't want to dip
1.2-ish.
it. Yeah, we don't want to dip into that because we need that as a cushion for the next 2 years.
Right.
Well, but I thought we were still doing the caveat if we can't afford. Well, let's just say 2023 is just a tough year due to the construction, right? All we really need to do is we need to make sure that we have enough money to fund the debt payment of 400 grand and to continue our capital reinvestment of 300 grand. So all we really need in 2023 is to net $700,000.
And I'm suggesting if things are shit, then that you need that $1.2 million to help fund that 4.
Yeah, correct. If it's really that bad, yes, then yes, that is correct.
Right. So
because that 400 is not going away.
right. So
Right.
I think long term, what you do is you keep that $1.2 million in reserve. Say for the sake of argument, we net 700 grand for the next 2 years. You still have $1.2 million, right? Pleasantview road is done. We're now in 2024, 25. There's what's left over in the TIF number. Is it, you know, what, $1.6 million, $1.7 million? What's the number look like in 25?
Where are my numbers? Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. In 2025, we're looking at $743,000 at the end.
Yeah, in 2025, you take another look at your reserve fund, take a look at that TIF balance and see whether or not it makes sense to pay it off then.
I'm good with this. We make the payments, we still are protecting ourselves. You know, it could take a little while, even after the road gets done, to get our business back. So we do need to be careful, so.
That's why I said 25.
Yeah, right, I heard you say 25. That could be a slower year. Probably not as bad as construction years, but. Okay. Do we do this now? City needs the money now, right, Mark? Well, we've taken care of that this year.
It's not going to happen for 22 because your 22 is already done.
Okay.
Right.
Say that again?
The budget for 22 is already done.
So this would only impact starting 2023?
Correct.
Oh, geez.
The pilot piece.
So then why we don't need to make a decision right now? Let's just sit on this.
Was somebody asking you to make a decision on this?
No. No, this was just informational purposes only at this time.
Yeah.
Because
think-
right now, our budget's not due until for 2023. We don't need to make this decision until really next August.
Correct.
Mark, at the end of the day, of the options presented, who makes the decision?
Well, obviously they want the golf course to buy in on this. And again, I think what you want to do is stay away from option 3 because you don't have a guaranteed return. Like,
Right.
so option 3 isn't off of net assets. Well, what happens if you have the worst year ever and you can't pay the taxes?
Right.
You're back in this whole advance thing or the debt situation. So I think what the golf course really needs is any kind of pilot should be a variable expense. Right. And
I think that's why we keep looking at gross receipts.
yeah,
What if Bill and the council want to go the other way?
we have to dissuade them that. Well,
Okay, that
bring up
answers
that point.
my
Yeah, I mean,
answers my question of who decides.
well, I mean, ultimately the council's going to decide, but
Yeah.
I think Bill's smart enough to understand that in a bad year, he's creating more financial problems for the city if they want to impose a fixed cost on a variable operation.
Right. Yep. Okay. Since we don't have to decide, let's not decide.
I'll make notes in the minutes, right, of what our conversation was so that we can reference back to this in the future. But so, essentially what I'm saying is as of right now, paraphrasing here, but as of right now, as long as we have money for debt payment, capital reinvestment, and the $100,000 reserve fund, that's what the golf committee would like to see for 2023 and beyond. And then after the debt is essentially terminated, we can adjust and renegotiate the pilot.
Right.
Yep. Other committee comments? Worries, conclusions? Okay, hearing none. I guess we're moving on.
Well, wait a minute. Was this what was on the agenda for this?
I'm trying to go back and find it.
The agenda was approval of general fund and TID 3 modification repayment plan.
Well, what did
We've already-
pilot have to do with that?
So pilot was just on the document. I knew that we didn't need to approve pilot tonight.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm just going to make notes under that section.
Okay.
Okay. The important thing is that we're showing that the golf committee agrees of the increase in advance payment.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So let's move up then. Pleasantview Road impact update. So a couple things. Met with Kevin Norby. Everything seems to be on the up and up. He's got a timeline going, which is great. There's nothing really specific on that from a Kevin Norby standpoint. I think what you all were really interested in was the acquisition of the land in order to make Pleasantview Road happen. Essentially, what's the real estate company that did the appraisal of the land appraised what we have at roughly $206,000. I think 206,500 or something like that off the top of my head. That number really isn't all that big of a difference or that big of a deal, but 206,400 to be exact. So what I've been kind of going back and forth with the city and the real estate company is that if the golf course and golf committee want Pleasantview Golf Course to be treated as a private entity, then that's fine. They would purchase the land from the golf course, right? Which would essentially be transferred into our fund. But then we would be assessed for road improvements. What that assessment is, I don't know what that is. Sean was going to get that information to me when he was able. So that's where we're at right now. So they are moving forward with, and the lawyers for the city are also now involved with this with the real estate company. But the plan is that the golf course would receive $206,400. We would then be assessed for improvements, road improvements and sidewalk improvements, things like that. And then they would continue to pay for the construction for the required redesign of the holes.
So they understand that if the assessment for the road improvements is more than the $206,000.
More than the land's worth. Yeah.
Yeah. This has to be a net gain for the golf course is my whole point of all of this.
Exactly. Yes.
I understand, but so we're sitting here arguing, oh no, you need to pay for the land, you need to pay for the land. And they said that's fine, but then you need to be assessed for road improvements. We can't just go back and go, just kidding.
Sure we
Well,
can.
We don't want that.
Pardon me?
I mean, I don't know.
This thing has to be a net gain for the golf course, right? Because otherwise we wouldn't take the deal. So that's the problem, is that we don't have the correct information. The city
We
ought
don't
to
know
be
what
able
the
to tell us,
assessment total is going to be.
they ought to be able to give us a ballpark.
Sean was going to look into it, and I have yet to hear back from him. He was hoping to have something prior to this meeting, but he didn't.
Would it be possible just to give the city the land and then let them build the road?
Well, that's what they were talking about, is that they were going to take the land and not assess us for it.
And
Right.
not assess, right?
We need to know the
Yep,
cost of improvements and assessment.
I don't disagree. This is just an update that I have for you right now, right?
Well, I appreciate
I'm
that.
not looking for any approval of anything.
Yeah.
I know that Sean wanted me to get the deed in front of you guys, but I agree wholeheartedly that we don't have enough information.
Okay.
It's just frankly an update.
All right. Moving on.
Okay. All right, Kevin Norby. So met with him. So this would be beyond the scope of work that has to do with Pleasantview Road, right?
Right.
Okay. These are some ideas that we came up with. All right. So if you look at page 1, you know, this is now, I don't know if you guys want me to pull it up, but do you all have it in front of you?
Yeah, I have it. You can take down the spreadsheet.
Yeah. All right. So we talked about essentially a number of things, but here's number 1: the addition of new forward tees throughout the golf course to improve playability for women, seniors, and entry-level golfers.
Yay.
So, okay, that's 1. Number 2, adjustments to the putting surface on hole 1 of the lake course to increase pin positions and playability.
Right. Agreed.
Number 3, improvements to realign and lengthen hole 6 of the lake course to improve sight lines and playability.
Yep.
Number 4, improvements to realign and lengthen hole 8 on the lake course to improve sight lines and playability. Number 5, improvements on hole 9 of the lake course to explore lengthening to a par 5. Number 6, redesign hole 8 of the prairie course to create a shorter downhill par 3 hole. Number 7, improvement on hole number 3 of the prairie course to improve drainage and minimize maintenance. Number 8, a other improvements intended to improve playability or maintenance. Okay.
It's a good list, Kevin, or not Kevin. It's a good list, Jeremy.
Yeah, I
Well,
agree.
Kevin-
It was a really good conversation. He and I met for about a half a day, and we toured the golf course. And let me just share. Let me get the easy one out of the way. Right, hole 8 of the Prairie Golf Course is just a lack of a better term, a bad golf hole. It's bad. I personally do not enjoy playing from 222 yards. I know a lot of people don't enjoy playing from 206 yards, and frankly, it is a dangerous golf hole. Right.
Yep.
It really is. People park on the cart path and they're literally halfway in between the tee box of the next hole and the green. Somebody got hit in the head the other, about a month and a half ago in a golf outing. And I'm telling you that this is arguably the most dangerous spot as far as being hit goes. We have a consistent problem of having uphill par 3s. So let me just rattle through them right quick. 2 woods is fine. 7 woods, straight uphill. 2 prairie, fine. 5 prairie, uphill. 8 prairie, 200+ yard hole. Lake 4, straight uphill. Lake 7, straight uphill unless you're playing from the tips, which is 190 yards. The par 3s are just frankly unplayable. For a lot of people. I mean, not unplayable, they're just incredibly difficult. They're incredibly difficult. And we don't have a downhill shot really anywhere, right? So it was just my thought is this would be really an opportunity for us to redesign hole 8. And I have this like vision of creating it almost like a prairie hole. We have fescue that's essentially surrounding the green. We're on the Prairie Golf Course, creating a signature hole for the prairie. So that was my thought. And I was thinking like a 150 some yard hole downhill from the tips, right?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So you'd put the green at the bottom of the hill?
No, not necessarily. Visualize the, if you're looking at the current green, to the left, there's a
To the
prairie
left.
patch in that prairie over there.
Okay.
But see, I don't need logistics of where the greens are going to go right now. This is what we
Right.
would pay him to do, right?
Yeah. The
So-
only thing I would add, Jeremy,
Yep.
is on number 7, I would include hole number 4 on Prairie. Because that one is bad from swampiness.
Yeah, we can look into that. It was, yeah, okay. So that's the easy part. The Lake
Right.
Golf Course is consistently the, we'll call it the most, I don't want to say hated of the 3 nines, just dislike. There's some evident disdain for the Lake Golf Course.
Yeah.
I think it's mainly, it's interesting when I ask people why they don't like the Lake Golf Course. It's always like, oh, the walk. I'm like, well, the woods is longer. The woods is uphill. So I'm not buying the walk. I think it's the fact that it's target style and the sight lines aren't very good, right? Which is why, we looked at hole 6. I think hole 6, again, lack of a better term, I think it's a garbage hole. I don't like hole 6 at all. I think hole 6 is a oh, we ran out of room and here's what we're gonna do.
Mhm.
And so I'm not looking to shorten Lake 6 because it's already short, and I don't want people to go at the green because that just creates a backlog of play, right?
Yeah.
So we were just thinking about what if we move the tee boxes over and create a better sight line and get rid of some of those trees on the left and maybe strategically add bunkers so people can find their golf ball and
Mhm.
it just looks more playable is what we were thinking. So that was hole 6. Hole
Good
8,
ideas.
what's that?
You're going to take some trees down on the right-hand side.
Well, mainly on the left-hand side, Tom.
Left-hand side, yeah.
On 8 Lake, the left-hand side.
No.
6.
Lake.
Six
Oh,
lakes.
6, yes. I'm sorry, I'm down on 8. Yeah, no, yes, take some stuff down there.
Yeah,
Correct.
it's too tight. It's too
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
just not
driving is
fun.
too tight.
It's not fun, And I think that's what people are missing is they want fun, right? I think that's the problem with Lake, is I don't know. And then hole 8, we talked about an improving sight line as well, so that you could see the green from the tee. You know, because I think there's just too many blind spots, too target style for people. And so improve a sight line, which we could move the green a little bit back into the left of hole 8. All right.
Yeah.
Which would then allow a safe adjustment to hole 9 being a par 5, which would be an easy fix.
Yep. I like it. That'll also give you 3 36 par courses.
Right. And I think that's part of the other issue is that the scoreability on the Lake course just isn't there for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right. They like to score well, which is why they love the rotation of Woods and then Prairie. Right. Woods is a scenic, good golf course. And then Prairie, they get beat up on the Woods, but then they get to, make a couple birdies on the Prairie or whatever, pars, whatever the case is.
I like it.
So what I'm looking at is that me as an operator, right? I sit there and I go, I'm always somewhat embarrassed to go Prairie and Lake as a rotation. And I don't want to be embarrassed to put Lake in a rotation. Right.
Yeah.
I want to have 3 good golf courses. Right now, Woods, in my opinion, is a great golf course. Prairie is a good golf course. The Lake course is, I think it's a good golf course, but it's a hard golf course. It's not very fun. And I'm just trying to make it a little bit more fun.
Yep. So I'm a little surprised he's willing to do this for $7,000.
Yeah, it seemed a little light to me too, but all right. Yeah.
I mean, I could ask him if he wants to charge more.
No, that's okay.
I hope you don't.
That's okay.
So now remember this, so it does not, it's just the design. It's just the,
Right,
him, yeah,
Right.
concepts, right? So it doesn't improve. So we would tie, and what we would want is this would give us the ability to choose what we want to do, right? In conjunction with the redesign of 2 and 3 due to Pleasantview Road. So if we're going to do something, and then we've got number 9 Woods already in the works, right?
Right.
If we're going to do something, this would be the year to do it since we already have people there.
Yep. Well, and if we don't pay the city a lot of money, we might be able to afford to do some of these.
Well, and the nice thing about 8 Prairie is if we did locate the green where I think it could go, we can continue playing 8 Prairie without a temporary green.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Which is a great idea. They can continue to play all 9. Yeah.
So that one just makes sense to me because we're not going to lose out on revenue on that one because there's a temporary green, right?
Well, I'm anxious to see what he comes up with.
So what I'm looking for is approval of this
Expenditure?
yeah.
Do I hear a motion?
I move that we accept his proposal and we move forward with the study,
At a cost not to exceed.
not to exceed 7,000.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Hi.
Like,
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
All right, then the only thing remaining is really the capital expense reserve, but this kind of goes into it, so.
I'm sorry I missed that.
The only thing that's remaining is the capital expense reserve and facility improvement plan.
Right.
But this is pretty much what we just
talked
started
about.
doing.
Going back just a little bit, Jeremy, because we are clearly going to be paying pilot costs soon, I expect, and forever into the future. It's important that your improvement plan be out far enough so that we can be public about the needs of the golf course going forward. That'll not only help us sell an option, a pilot option that works well for us, but hopefully will result in the golf course being able to retain sufficient earnings to make capital improvements to the course itself, thus protect the city's investment.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, Tom, but I think that's why we're putting a capital reserve reinvestment in, plan. We funded $100,000 a year as the budget.
Yeah, and
Right?
I'm saying that plan, the plan in my mind should include things like a new sprinkler system, things we know that are eventually going to wear out.
Which
I
is
know it's-
what we've been doing, Tom.
No, I understand that, Jeremy.
Okay.
I'm just saying, you're going to have money to do things.
I-
And you don't want to run out of things or ideas about
I
the time
don't-
the
I
city
don't
would like to
disagree.
have 1 million.
I don't disagree, but I don't disagree. I think what we need to look at is what we want to do from an operation standpoint, right? If we're going to negotiate pilot and we want to add that to a $200,000 a year, then fine, right? But right now we've got $300,000 that goes to capital expenditures, and maybe we need to increase that. Maybe that needs to go to 350 because of inflation, which that actually could be justifiably so, right?
Yes,
I agree.
true. Unfortunately, yeah.
Right, unfortunately, right, exactly. We came up with 300. What was that, 5-6 years ago? I mean, that 300 is not the same length today.
Right.
But if we're worried about the irrigation system, if we're worried about doing things with the capital reserve, then we need to increase the amount that we're putting into the capital reserve. When
And
we
as long as
negotiate
we
pilot.
have, as long as we have reason to do that, documented reason to do that, well into the future. I like the way you've been presenting the capital improvement plans so far. I'm just saying that documentation is going to become even more important when we start paying the city every year. Because unless we have those things on paper and are trying to get the ones done that we can, the city would be in its rights to say, well, you're not spending all the money you made improving the golf course, give us some more. We always need it.
Yeah, which is why we could renew that capital reserve study that we did like 7 years ago, 8 years
I
ago.
forgot about that. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Okay.
I don't think it's that dated yet, but I think it's a different. I think what needs to show, you need to show is a plan to make those improvements. Right.
Yeah, that's kind of my point.
Yeah.
Not that you're putting money away,
Yep.
not that you have these things, but that there's a plan to make these improvements in future years. And therefore, because we have these capital plans, that should preclude the city from stealing those.
Oh, see, somebody did finally say it.
Yes,
Way
a
to
little
go,
bit better term. Yeah.
But ladies and gentlemen, I just got done explaining to you that what we want to do to the golf course, it's not going to be that in itself is not going to be a small penny, right? And we've got to determine what we want to do on the lake course and the prairie course. And then we have our maintenance shed that I still want to get done. We need to get that done, right?
Yeah.
We all agree.
So there are two big things right there. The irrigation system, yeah, I agree. That's a $1.some million expenditure that could happen, but our staff has taken preventative maintenance measures to prolong the irrigation system. Instead of doing a one lump irrigation change, we've been fixing it each year, right? Our staff has done an incredible job of trying to, instead of making a $1.some million expense due to irrigation, they've been fixing it, right? So I can sit here, we can come up with a number of things. We could do green renovation. We could do bunker renovation. I mean, there's a number of things that we could do. We've got Poana that's infested our greens to no avail, right? And if we start doing green renovation, I mean, holy buckets, now you're talking about like the drop in revenue. I mean, there's a number of things we could take this.
And those things happen to every golf course, and every golf course has to figure out how to get them done, including the funding.
Exactly, but we don't know what we need to do until that, like irrigation is, I don't know when or if we're going to need to replace that.
No,
I
I
understand that.
think you're getting fixated on the fact that it's on the plan that we have to do it. I think it's still a function of what the need is at any given point in time, right? You can always take that sprinkler system and move it from this year to the next year, or from next year to the year after, because it's not needed, as long as you've got something to backfill it. So as long as you're always doing capital improvements, I think that's the issue, right? So if you take a look at the parks plans, at the conservancy plans, they're not saying that they have to have it done next year. What they're saying is that here's something that's on the list. We will get this done when funding is available or when the need has arisen, right? So that's the issue, is that you have a document, which we now have, and we start planning these things out, and we start trying to match our funding with the items that have to get done, right? It's always a matter of resources and needs, whether we actually pull the trigger. Nobody's questioning.
We have this list. We've
Right,
got, you know,
exactly. Yeah.
we need to redo the parking lot eventually, right? Not
Right.
the old one, the new one. That right there is $300,000 probably.
Right. I don't,
Like
I
we
think
have
we're on the
this
same
list.
page. It's just a matter of tactics on how you show this, right? What we're trying to say is that to the city is that we have a capital improvement plan, and we can't, the golf course cannot afford for you to take more than what we've agreed to. That's what the
Exactly.
So what is it that you guys would like me to do?
Nothing. I think you've got it down. You don't need to do anything except just continue to say, here's our backlog of projects. And you know, we're going to start knocking these things off as fast as we can.
Which is why I have that maintenance building in 2024, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got the golf course improvements in 2023 for obvious reasons. And I hear what you guys are saying. I truly do. But you know, maybe it'd be time in the year or two prior to pilot agreement that we have, what's that company, Tom?
Oh, I don't
Capital
remember.
Reserve Studies. Capital
Yeah,
Reserve Studies.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Redo it.
Well, the problem with the capital reserve from that firm or any other firm is they're going to look at your existing capital assets. They're
Correct.
not going to look at your wish list or future need list. They're not going to say you need to rebuild Green 7 on Lake, because they don't know what the hell that is.
No, correct. I agree with that. But actually they did, ironically enough. They did do that. Yeah. Not
I've never
necessarily
seen this
7
before.
Lake, but they had green resurfacing in there.
The whole point here, Jeremy, is a big list of stuff that will eventually get done. It doesn't even have to be identified as a cost item yet, but it's there for the council and others in the city to say, well, they do have a long list of things that they hope to be able to do. Let's not take all their money. That's all this is about. And if you can see out 10 years, please put together a list that's 10 years out.
Dude,
You know,
we have
put it-
this. This is what I'm trying to tell you guys.
We've got that. Right?
You know, like we have this. We spent $15,000 on this.
Mhm.
You know, that's what I'm confused about this. I mean, we have
No, I think we're all saying the same thing.
Mhm.
That's all. I mean, There's a big list. Everybody acknowledges that. I think the question is, how do we prioritize it? That's really what it comes down to.
I don't disagree with that at all. We have a list. The list isn't the problem.
Right.
And by the way, it looks like 2018.
Let's move on.
Okay.
We'll keep talking about this as time goes by. I think we're done. Anybody think we're not done?
So my question to you then is 2018 or 2017. So it's 4 years old, 4.5.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we want to look into updating this prior to pilot agreement?
No,
I would.
I wouldn't, because unless you can go through that list and say that 30 to 50% of the stuff is done, you still have too much to accomplish.
I don't disagree.
But the other thing you're going to get, Mark, is you're going to get numbers based on today's inflation rates.
No, I'm not suggesting, but we would always go back and get the current price estimates, right? I understand that there's a difference in pricing. I'm talking about more about tasks. If you can go through this list and say, you know what, we don't need to update this list because we've only gotten. It would be one thing if we were 60% done this list, then we'd say, okay, you know what, we need to update this. But if we're 30 to 50% done, if that, then we're still working through the list. It's not time to update it.
All right.
So, but I mean, this is an interesting conversation because it made me think about the fact that $300,000 is not the same, right?
Hmm.
I mean, do we need to reevaluate before we agree to the pilot?
Yes.
Oh, right. Should it be 400 a year? Should it be 350? I don't know what the number is. And should we increase the reserve to 150 a year?
Well, so 50 grand is what, 14%, right? Something like that.
So, well, when was it that we actually did do that? Was that 5 years, 6 years ago? I can't remember.
I have a different suggestion. I think you're right. We need to reassess the costs, but let's wait until Norby comes back with what those 8 or 9 improvements you're looking for, and you factor those into the list. Because we know what inflation is. For the year, it's probably going to be between 3.5% and 4.5% if we're lucky.
But prior to this year, it's been zip.
Exactly.
Right. It's been zip on both capital and our reserve. Hey, Mark, what? Forgive my ignorance here. Let's just say like a parks, for example. Do they have a set capital that they get?
No. We have a ballpark.
Have you increased it over the years?
No.
Okay.
And you can ask Matt, right? He'll cry on your shoulder.
Okay. I didn't know. I wasn't sure on that.
Right. So you guys remember there's a different source of funds for all this. Right. Everything that Matt gets is because it's all levy or it's borrowing.
Right.
And there's lots of competition. The only competition any of this stuff has for the golf course is how much money you make. Right. I'm sure if Matt could charge fees for people going to parks, we'd have the brand new shiny stuff, but we can't do it that way. Different set of circumstances.
I think on the flip side, though, with the capital reserve, what's interesting, or not the capital, but if 300 is not enough and we have projects, we could always take it from the reserve, right? Because
that was the intent, yes.
Right. So maybe that kind of negates the whole inflation argument. Because whatever we don't spend, it gives us just a good budget to keep funding our reserve fund.
Wait
So
till you see more.
You remember the genesis of that 100,000 a year was to build something about $1 million, $1.2 million, because we thought at some point we'd have to redo the clubhouse.
We thought a
Big
lot
stuff.
of things, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So the answer is that would backfill any of the swings in whatever capital projects we needed to run. So you take some capital, you take some money out of the current year, you take some money out of reserves to get the big ticket items done. But ultimately, I mean, obviously you'd want to keep that cash cushion for as long as possible.
Yeah,
Right.
no, I don't disagree. Okay.
Yep.
Well, it's a good conversation. I mean, it really is. I mean, it makes you, especially now that we throw pilot in the mix, So,
Mark, one last question on pilot. City hopes out of us.
Sorry, you were breaking up there. I didn't catch any of that.
What is your, I said expectation, but let me say supposition on what the city hopes to get out of us? Well, I'd like to know what we're aiming for.
Quite honestly, I have not had discussions with Bill about amount. It's been more about concept,
All right.
right? And what I've told him is that I've been trying to prepare the committee for the concept of having to pay pilot as a mechanism to return profits to the city. And the original timetable, I think, was always going to be after the debt's been paid off.
Right.
But that confluence of, need from the city and a great deal of success from the golf operations, I think, has brought that forward. So
Okay.
I brought this up. The city didn't bring this up. I think it's time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. We know we need to do it. My concern in the past always has been, don't set the bar too high because it'll never come down. But we got to set it somewhere. I mean, I fully understand that.
Right. And my point is that it's better for us to come to the city and say, hey, we want to start doing this, than for the city to say, we want this.
Right. Well, I've been on the other end of the stick, where really large reserves that would have put new roofs on a lot of places disappeared. And so, yeah, I'm extremely sensitive to this.
Right.
Why I probably keep blathering on about it. But
No, and I think there's ample experience or anecdotal evidence of this, right? You just take a look at what Madison did to their golf courses.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that should scare everybody, right? And so, Jeremy and I have talked about some of the projections, and quite honestly, they need to be updated. But as of 2 years ago, there was an anticipation that the growth in golf would start to plateau in about 27, 28.
right.
And so I think that for me has been the guiding thought, is that, we need to get into the best financial shape possible in that time frame in order to weather whatever, it's just that plateauing of revenue, right? So we just need to be in that best place where we have no debt, everything's variable, and we go from there.
Yep. Okay. Next meeting.
well, hey, Tom, can I just say something on all of that? And I think for me, I'm not worried about the projects. I'm not worried about what we can do to improve the golf course because I've got a list very long in my own way, right? What I worry about is staffing. You know, right now, last 2 years, we have gotten, frankly, beat up, for the lack of a better term. And I would rather ensure that we have staff both in the clubhouse and down at maintenance that can manage the volume that we're doing, right? So that's what worries me about pilot is it's not necessarily the reserve. It's more we need to make sure that I've got the game plan for the next 5-10 years from a staffing standpoint set. From an operating standpoint, because if we hire somebody, let's say at 2/3 or the 1728, a seasonal full-time, right? But they get benefits, you know, that's a $40-some thousand expense, right? So I just need, that's what concerns me more than anything.
Yeah. And it's getting harder and harder, I suspect.
Yeah, I mean, so my father and I, you know, it's crazy. We were just up in Winona. We went on a hunting trip this past weekend, and he wanted to stop at Burger King. He's like, I haven't had a Whopper in years. I'm like, yeah, I'll stop at Burger King. I don't care. Couldn't go inside, no staff.
Right.
You know, and we're definitely being pinched just like everybody else. And so you start to wonder, okay, where's this minimum wage situation going to go? How to retain good staff? And that in itself concerns me more than the reserve, because we already have the reserve planned, right, to some degree. And I'm not trying to dismiss it, but it's the day-to-day stuff, you know, ensuring that I have a team that can do the things that we're asking them to do. That's what keeps me up at night. So.
Well, I'm glad you're thinking about it.
Yeah, and I don't think we need to go, you know, dive into that tonight. It's just, but
I'd love to help you out, but my granddaughter's only 12.
Yeah. But I mean, this is a really good conversation for us to have, and I'm glad that we have until essentially next August. And I think this we need to keep thinking. So.
All agreed. Okay, thanks, Jeremy. Next meeting. Are we going to try for
Early
December?
January?
No, I tell you what, let's try for December, okay? Just in case we need to do anything with Pleasantview Road or anything like that, okay? Can we make the 20th work?
That's a really tough week. I mean,
Is it? Okay.
well, it's Christmas week, so, I mean, I can do it. How about the rest of you?
I can do it.
Let's try it.
Try to make the 20th happen, okay? And if it's just numbers, guys, I'll just shoot you the Excel spreadsheets and just say, hey, here are the financials throughout November. Otherwise, let's try for the 20th just in case something happens with PV Road and we've got to get something going.
All right.
Sounds good.
And I want to keep meeting Zoom. I don't know about the rest of you, but I frankly see no reason to go out in the cold.
No, Tom, I'm with you 100%. I love it. It affords me I'm at home right now as opposed to with you guys.
I am too. I'm sitting here in shorts, actually. It's nice in the house. I don't want to go outside.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Tom. That was important.
No, and the other thing too is I tell you what, it's really helped me over the summer when I'm at the golf course and I didn't have to rush down to City Hall. It just
Right. Well, Carl, now you're making me afraid to stand up.
Yeah, you better not. Now that I finally have an internet connection that's working well tonight, I've had some issues with that, obviously. So back and forth.
All right.
Anyway.
Somebody suggest we quit, please.
I move we adjourn this meeting.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Good night, everybody. Thanks very much.
thank you guys.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, thank you for
Ditto.
that. Bye-bye.
All right, good night.
Take care.